Welcome guys back to channel. Maverick here with episode 4 of Wave Listen to Me. So, still playing catch up with the series. I really want to hurry up and catch up to the current episode so far. Lots of things happening in my life, but I'm trying, right? I'm trying. And indeed, I really am very interested in this series overall. It's touching a subject that I do have interest in, as can be evidenced by my after talk, my discussion session being so long through every single one of these episodes. I always find something interesting to talk about and that I want to expand upon. So anyways, in the last episode, we have Minare being formally offered a job as a radio host at the radio station, and she is being promised a program already, right? Now, she only needs to find some sponsors, and then we can get the show on the road. So, let's look at that together right now. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Oh, it's literally the next day. Oh, I didn't see the time, actually. 8 a.m. Oh. She literally only slept for like 4 hours. Oh, 11. I totally know this feeling. You think, just let me sleep for 5 more minutes. And then if you don't actually have an alarm, it's like, holy shit, it's the afternoon already. I can relate to that. Especially being a non-morning person myself, like, getting up at 8 is something that I just really can't do. I haven't done that since, since I was out of military service. During, everything before college, yeah, you gotta wake up at 7 or something like that. School in Asian countries start really early, really early. Like, you guys in the West really wouldn't know, especially in the States, where you can have classes starting at like 9 or something. Ooh, that is heaven compared to Asian schools. And especially considering that she used to work. Well, actually, the place that she worked at served lunch as well, right? If that was the case, then she would have to be there early as well. But I mean, this is probably going to be her life going forward, especially if she's going to have a radio show at 3:30 a.m., right? That's sort of like working the night shift in a way. You would expect her to maybe only wake up afternoon or something. Wow. Yeah, this is a really a cute, interesting laps, and you can even cook and all that. Wow. All right, Minare, what are you gonna do? That is a ton of work. Can you actually cook? That turtle. Yeah, this is us. This is a single person radio. Typically, it doesn't work this way. Even if it was a very low budget radio, you would still need, professional production. It is, after all, a professional radio on a professional radio station. You gotta keep the standards, right? You're just really calling this guy willy-nilly, aren't you? Maybe. Is that what's gonna happen this episode? $50,000. Nice, we are getting some actual. Wow. Then they have to pay more. I mean, in their case, they'll also hire an ad agency. That's literally not much of the cost, though. I agree with Mato, actually. You need to first focus on what content you have, and then you bring the content and say, this is what my radio show's gonna be about, and then you take that to the sponsors. Alright, hang up. That was probably not the right way to approach this. Is that the audience applauding in the back? So, literally his chance? Whoa. Oh. Okay, she has that.
私の代わりに入った子も引かれたの。てか、それが問題なのよ。あの店、最低3人いないと回せないからさ。なのに。
ミナレさん、まるで夫婦でやってるってみたいです。
とか言ってる間にもオーダー滞ってるっつうの。皿は誰がいつ洗うんですかと。あれでそこそこ客入る店だしさ。
でもよっぽど好きなんですね。
ワーカホリックだけじゃどうにもならないよ。
ミナレさんのことがですよ。
ああ、らしいね。
ラッシーとかけたわけじゃないんですよね。
ねえ、あの子呼べないの？ほら、あの夏祭りの時来てくれた子。
ああ、彼はですね、この間のバイトで何か思うところがあったみたいで、今チベットにいるそうですよ。チベット医術を極めたいとかで。
何が彼？
Okay.
凍ったカレーを温めて
At least it wasn't division throat singing or whatnot.
でも楽しくないですか、こういう忙しさ。
1週間後にも同じこと言えたら褒めてやるよ。
今の状態、結構自分の夢に近いんですよね。嫁さんと2人で経営する小さな定食屋で、そんなに経営楽なわけじゃない。
Okay, this guy
人に誘われて笑顔が絶えないみたいな。
is also.
ミナレさん、
Nah.
そう思った暁には。
ちょい待った中原くん。こないだ言ったじゃん。あんたとはサラッサラの関係でいたいんだけど。
毎回やるんすか
Yeah.
こういう言い方もどうかと思うけど、ミナレさんって別にやりたいことがあるわけじゃないでしょ。
何決めつけてくれてんだよ、おめえ。
あ、すみません。あったんですか。
No, that hit the nail on the heart, on the head.
私は今からお前を殴る。無言で殴り続ける。なぜなら腹は立つ言葉がないからだ。
待った待った、殴りながらでいいので聞いてください。たとえその日暮らしだったとしても、俺はミナレさんのいいところをたくさん知ってる。あなたは基本生真面目で優しい人です。
これが優しいとか。
今年の春先に親が自分で頼んだ激辛カレーを子供に食べさせて、子供が泣き止まなくなったことがあったでしょ。その時ミナレさん、知っておくべきボイジャーの新三大不人気メニューを披露して子供を爆笑させたじゃないですか。
母親が寸引きでしたって米付きでブログに写メアップしてたんだぞ。人間不信になりかけたわ。
俺がそばにいてほしいのはそういう人です。いざって時に恥ずかしげもなくそういう対応ができる人なんですよ。野心を持ってるとかじゃなく、それが人として大切な要素だってことが言いたかったんです。だからミナレさん、
わかったわかった。よし、こうしよう中原くん。あと4年であんたは自分の店を持て。私が30になるまでに。そしたら私、必ずそこで働くと約束するから。
Really?
30までは私一人でいるから。ね。
Why would you make this? Yeah, this is not going to go well in any way, shape, or form.
ほら出て、店長代理。
すみません。開店までもう少し。
すみません。こちら宝田よしき様のお店でしょうか。
Who's this?
そうですけど。
More drama?
この度は誠に兄の至らぬ運転で
Oh,
多大なご迷惑をおかけしまして。
is she going to end up working here?
何に気を取られていたのか、2の上げ下ろし中だった宝田よしき様とこちらの従業員の柳川邦夫様を、申し遅れました。私、立花蒔絵と申します。
So,
兄立花徹はしばらく自由に動けませんので、取り急ぎ身内である私がお詫びに伺わせていただきました。
はあ、それはどうも。
それで差し出がましい話であるかもしれませんが、お二人が戻られるまで
yeah.
私がこちらのお店の手伝いを
Okay. So, I just mentioned last episode that there wasn't going to be any romance or anything.
報酬でうんこ
Well,
ちょっと中原くん、あれ雇う気じゃないでしょうね。おかしいって、あの女身内の起こした事故でそこまでする？
いや、どっちにしろ宝田さんに事実確認をしないことには。
すぐ任せられる仕事とか。
まあ、皿洗いが関の山でしょうね。
そうか。
Hired. Oh. いいね。
はい。
ミナレさん、明日は中島記念病院に朝9時ですけど、迎えに行きましょうか。
ああ、いや、みずほちゃんの出社に合わせて出るから大丈夫だと思う。
了解っす。
やはり私も。
いいっていいって。あんた決まったばかりなんでしょ。また明日、お店でね、立花さん。
はい。
うん。
よく知らないうちにこき使っちゃったよ。あれ鍵がない。うわやっば。
で、学生の時にラジオ
She took it. Oh man, she is such an angel.
懐かしいな。で、何そのポーズ。
スローインです。中学の時毎週聞いて
She is so cute.
玲子さんがミナレさん帰ってきたのかも。
Oh. Oh my god, okay. Looks like this series is definitely not devoid of romance.
私今日
Uh?
いろいろと取り返しがつかないことになった気がするぞ。
Cheers.
ああ、立花徹さんの妹さんね。
大丈夫？
昨日兄弟揃ってここに来たわ。立花さんたちはね、早くにご両親を亡くされたみたいで、ちょっとかわいそうに思っちゃってね。言ってないけど、治療費以外は請求しないつもり。あなたたちも責めないでやってちょうだいね。
宝田さん、こんな優しい一面があったなんて。
お兄さんが色男だったんですよね。あ、帰りたくない？
ええ。
あんたに一目惚れしたにしても、初日から女を武器に使ってくるとは。
いや、そういう感じでもなかったんで、もちろん家まで送り届けましたけど、なんか変だったんですよね。ほい。
すみません、お金払います。
いや、いいですよ、これぐらい。
お店で流してるラジオ、なんていう曲ですか？
はああ、MRS ですよ。たまにジングル流れてるでしょ。
そうなん
What?
です。あれは楽しいラジオ局ですよね。
ああ、そうっすね。
あ
普通だと思うけど。
放送大学以外のラジオ聞くの久しぶりだから、すごく楽しいです。
What? Huh?
それだけ？
それだけ。
ぶっちゃけモーテルとか行かなかったの？
モーテルって。
他言しないから。
送り届けたって言ってるでしょ。
おはようございます。
はよーせ。
中原さん、
はい。仕事を増やしてほしい。ああ、でも給料払ってない。
いいじゃん、やってもらおう。給仕とか。てかね、かっこつけられる状況じゃないのよ、店長代理。
そらまあそうですけど。
はい、何でも教えてください。
すみません。
はい。
Mm.
ホットチャイは食後でよろしいでしょうか？
なかなかにこなせてるじゃないですか。小田先生のご賜物でしたよ。
ミナレさんの手が止まってちゃ意味ないんですが。
あら、ほほ。
This is.
今日も飯は。
みずほちゃんに私が作るって言ったから悪いね。
小田さん、明日もいろいろとご教授願います。
What is the development in this episode? I have no idea where this is going.
少し表情は陰ってるけど、なんだかんだ普通の子でよかったよ。
いい匂い。
レンコンを敷き詰めてピザ風にしてみたよ。
謎料理上等です。
Oh, she can cook.
じゃあいい人がヘルプに来てくれたんですね。
正直店長とあの子、永久トレードでいいと思うわ。
ミナレさん、ボイジャーがなんとかなりそうなのは大変結構
What about the radio? Yeah.
ミナレさんが来るの楽しみにしてるんですから、私。
なんすよね。店長復帰とともにあの店辞めなきゃいけないのは立花さんだけじゃなくて、実は私もなんすよね。ラジオもさ、最近前よりいろいろ意識して千代まどかさんの MC とか聞いてるけど、結論を言えば麻藤さん完全に私を買いかぶりすぎ、歴然としてるわ。
そんな、自信持ってくださいよ。
つか、みぞおちゃんも現場にいてわかるでしょ、彼女のスキルの万能感が。
そうですね。
Hmm?
とにかく私、ミナレさんを。
What is with this girl, and what is with her very creepy stare? This is... You know, I feel like...
さっき一瞬言いよどんだのはいじめられたりしてんのかな。
炭酸って言ったら普通炭酸水でしょ。
おはようっせ。あれ、もう残業あげてんの？
ああ、立花さんにフライヤーの使い方をレクチャーしてたんですよ。ミナレさんは接客に特化してもらって、自分は調理アシスタントを兼任したいと。
おお、首相。でもさ、無報酬なんだからそんなに気を張らなくても。
いえ、そういうわけには。なんだかんだでまかないもいただいてしまってますし、それに兄の不祥事のお詫びとして通わせてもらってる身分で、これは本当にどうかと思うんですけど、ここのお仕事楽しくていろいろしたいんですよ。
やめるときはお心づけを。素直でいい子じゃないの。この自分は私の心もまだ平和なものだったの。
What is this feeling of drama building up?
ミナレさん、これちょっと食べてみてください。
タピオカ入りのプディングを一口サイズに丸めてフライにしてみ。
Tapioca pudding balls?
もうジンミー。
Fried tapioca?
はい、次はそうしてみます。
このメニューは。
ああ、それ、昨日食べたじゃないですか。ほら、彼女の創作料理。
中原さんに気に入ってもらって。
Yeah, this girl was much more... These two are much...
名前はヒデがいいと思うよ。かなり美味しかったし。さて、ブログの更新しないと。
すみません、差し出がましかったかも。
She did everything already? She has no reason to be here anymore.
今日みぞほちゃんの誕生日なんで。
Really?
ミナレさん、最近付き合い悪いな。
朝買った誕生日ケーキ、店の冷蔵庫に入れっぱなしだった。やべえやべえ。
What's she going to see?
まだいる。
Oh. Oh.
なんてしたんですか。
どうしてじゃないだろう。なんだって店のスタッフルームに寝泊まりしてるなんて嘘ついたんだ。というか、気づいてたよ。悪いけど。カレー屋の仕事に来るのに、こんなでかいバッグは必要ない。着替えなんだろう、中身は。男の部屋に泊まるのは勝手だけど、うちの店を出しに使うなら。
男なんていない。人の気も知らないで。
ああ、そうですか。どうしても帰りたくないならさ、うち来れば。
Oh. 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 What? Oh. Tonight? You are seriously... Wave, listen to me. Wow. Alright, alright. See you guys after this. Alright, so I guess that answers my question from the last episode, right? Where I kind of had the feeling that this series was going for it and going to have a lot of romance in it. And I actually went back and checked the genre tags for this series. Apparently, it has both comedy and romance, so I guess that is what we should be expecting here. And indeed, in this episode, it seemed like every single person was trying to get together with every single other person, right? And we got lots and lots of this kind of development here, tons of drama. Now, personally, I'm not. It's whatever to me. I'm not that big on this kind of stuff. I mean, rom-com, sure, it's funny and whatnot when it's funny, right? The thing with these kind of series, especially within a more mature setting, is that a lot of times it gets over dramatized. Let's say, going back to my example from last episode, where I mentioned Nana, right? The eventual character relationships within that got really complex, and it's just not particularly to my liking, right? It is, I guess some would consider it more realistic or more how can I say it's definitely not your standard school genre based kind of rom-com, right? But I know some people love it, some people don't, just like some people like to watch these sort of dramas on television and some people don't, right? So I just hope that it's going to be funny, and that is all that I request from this. We certainly don't have a lack of characters here, right? With all, we got Nakahara still trying to hit on Minare, and then we got I forgot what his name was, the biker dude trying to hit on Mizuho, and then we've got this new Tachibana character who apparently is having something with Nakahara, and all these things added together. And I'm sure that the other characters we've seen in the past, they're probably going to make another cameo appearance sometime soon. They're named, they have we saw episodes directly with them. Like, who was that in the last episode, the one with the glasses, Minare's neighbor? He's probably going to make an appearance in the future as well. So let's just see how things go, right? In terms of the characters, I also want to mention one other thing. So Mizuho, I already mentioned last episode, I think she's super cute, and I still stand by that in this episode. She's cute, she can do housework, and what in Japanese we call girl power, right? It's a concept in Japan where you know how to cook, you live a very organized life, and all that kind of stuff. Though I do have to wonder, right? It's not the first time where I've seen her really give off this very creepy yandere kind of expression with her face and her eyes. So I think there's definitely some sort of darkness related with her that we'll probably get more into in the future, but I'm just saying that we should probably keep an eye on that. There's definitely something unnatural about that girl, just as there's something unnatural about Tachibana as well, and so we'll just see what happens here. By the way, at the end of this episode, even though like literally more than half of it was spent basically with all focusing on all this sort of character interdevelopment and whatnot, I am glad that at the very end we got back to the radio part, and hey, literally today Minare is going to be within the anime, of course, literally today she's going to be hosting her very first episode of the show. I guess it's maybe should we call it episode 1? I'm thinking, by the way that they described it, especially in the preview part, it might be more of a pilot episode, a test run, so maybe not specifically she's going to go back the next day. I could be wrong, of course, but it's possible that they're just going to do this and try to gather some feedback on this pilot run, and then actually make it into a more formal thing with announcements and such continuing on, right? I think that's how Mato is planning it here, and I think Mato's strategy here is also to involve Minare as little as possible, to basically just give her the bare bones basics and then allow her to go on air and wing it. I think that's what he considers to have the most sort of entertainment value, and Yeah, I gotta say, maybe I agree as well, right? So it's unfiltered, it's straight from the heart. Maybe that's what listeners want to hear, right? So that is that. And we can do see that the radio concept is indeed something similar to what we've seen from the very first episode, where basically Minare is going to be put into all these different kinds of situations and then act out as if she was doing a broadcast under those kinds of situations, right? So back in episode 1, the situation was she was actually trying to air an episode in the wilderness, being chased by a black bear, right? And so it's always going to be these sort of very WTF kind of situations that she's going to be in. And I gotta say, that is a very interesting concept, right? That's pretty ingenious, actually. So I'm really looking forward to see once this show really kicks off and gets on the road. Beyond that, in this episode, they almost kind of sort of went into more details with the radio sponsorships and all that. And let's talk a little bit about that, right? Because I guess on one hand, I'm surprised by the numbers, and on one hand, I'm not surprised by the numbers. Now, obviously, they could be just pulling some numbers out of their ass, and those aren't true numbers at well, but I think it actually makes sense. And by the way, Minare's guess was actually not too far off the mark, right? Like, I have no idea why she later on acted like there was such a huge discrepancy between what she was guessing and what the actual price was, because she mentioned 50,000 yen per episode, right? Don't forget, this is actually going to be a daily radio show, so you gotta multiply that by an entire month's worth of time, which, if it's just using 50,000, times that by 30, and it's already 1.5 million yen. So, I don't see why she was so surprised when Mato quoted the price of 1.7 million yen. By the way, I think we should just use USD here, because I'm sure that it's more easily convertible to most of my viewers here. So one easy way is to just divide by 1,000. So what this means is that each episode is basically about $55, and then for an entire sponsorship for half a year, it's about 10,000 USD. Which, like I said, it's not really that much if you consider that this is essentially buying advertising, right? And think about it. You only need to pay $55 to produce a single episode of a radio show, and again, you got to pay so many different kinds of people here, right? They haven't really talked about the salary part yet, so I think this might be a good time to mention it. Now, again, I'm not entirely sure what the salary is for regular radio hosts, regular radio personalities, for the Seiyu side when they're doing their sort of anti-radios and whatnot. The quotation that I've most heard is somewhat comparable to the minimum wage in Japan, so which is about $7 to $9 per hour, right? Or so it's about 7 to 9 USD per episode of about half an hour. Which is, you might think that seems okay, right? I mean, if you go by an hourly wage, you can times that by 2, right? But the real reality of the situation is that, like I mentioned in the last episode, it's not literally just those 30 minutes on air that you have to spend your time, but also all the other time before that as well, doing the pre-meetings, doing the pre-checks, thinking up of interesting segments, and organizing listener mails and all that. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think that time is actually paid. So it's a lot lower paid than you might think. It's definitely not something that one can sustain themselves with unless they have like a daily show and multiple shows, and there's tons of huge sponsors rushing to sponsor your show here, right? But yeah, like I said, about $55-$60 per episode, it really makes a lot of sense if you consider that you need to pay about $8 or $9 to the radio host, and then you also got the sound engineers as well. You got editing, you got people who typically you would still need to have a director. A director needs to get paid. The AD needs to get paid as well, right? It's even though Minare was saying, okay, it might literally just be her and Mato, right? That's not typically how things work. You need to have the other professionals helping you as well. And then you also got the rental fees and whatnot. And of course, the radio station has to take their cut as well. So it's really not that much when you consider, there's all these people needing to share this money. $60 per episode, it's basically nothing. But like I said, I'm not too surprised by this price because for one thing, I already know that the salary in radio isn't all that good, and also because I have actually also some experience with buying ad placements in radio stations as well. So this is another thing that I do think is kind of interesting to me. So it seems that in Japan, or I guess maybe in the radio world in general, they don't have a differentiation between sponsors and pure pure ad placements, buying an advertisement during the advertising space, right? The way that I always looked at it is the sponsor is the one who is creating who is responsible for sponsoring the content, right? And so the way that their advertisements usually work is that it's going to be integrated by the radio hosts themselves, right? The radio hosts themselves would say that we're being sponsored by so and so, and here's a message, here's a word from our sponsors, that kind of thing, right? But the way that Mato was describing it here was more similar to my concept of what I understand as just pure directly buying advertisement space in a radio station during a specific period of time, which if you listen to radio, it's a time between the segments where it's a clear, it has nothing to do with the radio itself. It's just it's literally another voice or something like saying, hey, buy this car, or go to this specific place, go to this fair, go to whatever, right? So the way that I always thought about is that these are two different things, but the way that Mato was actually describing it here seems to make make the two one and the same. So I'm not really sure if this is only specific to Japan, or maybe my knowledge of radios in general is a little bit inaccurate, right? So I do hope that we can continue to see that going forward as well. And really, that is so cheap. Like, I don't know, probably most of my viewers here don't quite understand this concept unless you actually worked in marketing or in advertising. But really, it's when I was evaluating different advertisement options for my company, radio is just so damn cheap, right? Compared with television, I mean, obviously, television slots are very expensive, but even comparing something with a digital advertisement, comparing it with, for instance, you guys are on YouTube right now, right? I don't particularly monetize my channel, but maybe Google will still actually put some ads, like some video ads or one. I'm sure you guys have seen video ads on YouTube before, right? Like, even compared to that, radio advertisement is really not that much at all. When you consider that it's you can have a pretty long segment of time that is going to be aired regardless, right? You can't skip through it. You can't ad block it or not. You can at most change stations or just choose to ignore it. And who normally not that many people would bother to change stations in the middle of an advertisement, right? Like, you need to switch back and forth and back and forth. I'm not sure that most people would actually do that. So it is a huge exposure for relatively cheap money. Now, of course, the drawback of this is that you can't really measure the effectiveness of it, similar to, like, compared with digital advertisement, when you can instantly see, like, how many unique people saw it, what was the average viewing length and whatnot. It's a huge difference here, and particularly you can also do what we in the industry say, you can actually check the conversion rate. For instance, like how many of those people who watched this advertisement actually went to your website and then bought something or whatnot, right? That's all trackable. That's not trackable in radio. Now, you could say that other forms of traditional media have the same problem as well, and indeed that is true. TV, I'd say, is a little bit different because the impact is higher, and the sort of, what can I say? The methodology of measuring television impact is more well developed than radio, I would say. But anyways, that was kind of a tangent, but what I really want to say is, honestly, it's pretty damn cheap to sponsor a radio show, if you think about it. Alright, that was it for episode 4 of Wave Listen to Me. Thank you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.